There are great stories from all over the world that I think are ripe for adaptation. Local stories, local myths, local legends, things like that, and local creators. What we realized was that was the moment where this thing that they had been so passionate about, that they thought, I may be the only one who loves this, when they saw it in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, it validated that this is now mainstream. This is something that stands up there with Snoopy and SpongeBob and all those other things. It was this great moment for them to see themselves reflected in pop culture, and that's what anime has become.
Yeah, and I think it's about inclusion also, right? And because, as you say, maybe they felt a little bit, sidelined. This maybe it was too niche or whatever. But then to see something like that, I think you even may have mentioned that when we saw you at Cine Europe or CinemaCon last year. That it is a validation to do that on such a big stage, right?
Absolutely. It's and I'm glad you mentioned inclusion, because I think that is one of the great things about this fandom. It's very open. It's very welcoming. There's no barrier of entry. There's no gatekeeping. People want to bring people in. They want to share this love they have of anime with other folks. So as you come in as a new fan, what you find is everyone wants to bring you in and teach you and show you these things. And have you watched this? Have you tried this? Have you been there? It's just a great place to dive in. And that sense of inclusion, I think, is really important to the fans.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned Star Wars, because I was a total Star Wars geek. I was 8 years old in 1977, to date myself horribly, but that changed my life, and even something like that, you wanted to tell everybody about it. You wanted, but in any case, can we expect Solo Leveling season 3?
At some point, yes. We are very excited about Solo Leveling. We just concluded season 2.
Yeah.
It did great for us. I'm sure there will be more content in the future. Don't know exactly when, but it will be here, and fans will get to continue to see the story.
Okay. And then talking about referencing Demon Slayer, and you've got Infinity Castle coming out later. Now, Crunchyroll is celebrating 10 years being in the theatrical business. Is that correct?
Between Crunchyroll and Funimation, we've brought both teams together. Funimation film business really started about 10 years ago. So, I've been doing it at Funimation/Crunchyroll for about 10 years, but the company's been around for almost 30 years now.
Okay. And then in terms of how Crunchyroll's relationship with Sony, because I'd also like to hear just a little bit more about the global rollout on Infinity Castle. So obviously it starts in Japan in August, right? And then when can we expect it later in other markets?
So there'll be
not only North America.
So there'll be a handful of Asian markets that are right around the Japanese release in August. Most of the rest of the world will roll out in September. So, it'll vary a day or two here, but around September 12th, give or take a week, it will open pretty much in the rest of the world. And we'll bring it to all those territories along with our partners at Sony Pictures.
Okay. And how does the relationship with your partners at Sony Pictures work?
It works really well. It's been great. Sony itself is very committed to anime. They understand the power of it. They want to spread that throughout the world. So being part of the Sony family has really accelerated our ability to grow and our ability to reach fans. So whether it's, again, partnering with Sony Pictures, both domestically and internationally for distribution, we do a lot with them in home entertainment. We work with them across the board. That's been an amazing opportunity for us to grow the business. It's also allowed us to work closer with our partners at Aniplex, which are also a Sony company family who produce Demon Slayer and Solo Leveling and many other things. So it's created this, I'm not going to use synergy because it's a little overdone, but it's created this really great opportunity where we have a parent company who believes in the medium and really wants to spread it throughout the world, and then all of these other companies who have opportunities to do that. And having that support has just been life-changing for us. Yeah,
and it's great to see. Now, also just slipping back to streaming, you just, because Sony just did their earnings this past week, you've reached 17 million subscribers?
17 million, yes.
Okay. What I guess also, how much do you think there's been an impact from the relationship with Sony in terms of getting the Crunchyroll word out there?
They've definitely been a proponent of us. They've supported us. Again, if you listen to the earnings call, it's an important pillar for them in anime. So the investments that they've made in us, the support that they've given us, the opportunities we've had to collaborate with all the Sony companies have absolutely added an accelerant to the growth that we've had and helped us get to 17 and beyond.
What about content creation, anime content creation outside of Japan? Who's doing that? Is that going to grow?
It's a fascinating topic. For us, and I think for fans in general, anime itself is really rooted in Japan. It needs to be authentically Japanese because so much of the love comes from the art form itself, which is inherently Japanese, and the storytelling style, the pace, the narrative, those kind of things. So I think anything that we're going to create or distribute needs to have that authentic roots in Japan. Where it gets interesting is there are great stories from all over the world that I think are ripe for adaptation. Local stories, local myths, local legends, things like that, and local creators. There was a manga that was originated and published in France called Radiant a few years ago. That was then taken to Japan, adapted into an anime, was very successful. So the anime itself came out of Japan. I think that's really important to the art form. But the stories themselves, I think, can come from anywhere. And I think what you'll see over time is as this continues to globalize, that influence will be seen more and more where you look at what's locally relevant, what's locally popular. But even with anime itself, the genres within anime, some resonate better than others. Some may prefer action, some may prefer more of a slice of life or romance. So there's plenty of room within that to play as well, to tailor to local market tastes.